starting off today, we have review day 1 for our cumulative. So the first thing that I would like to review is thinking all the way back to complex numbers. I know it was quite a far ways back, so think about it a little bit. And if I had the expression, well, first of all, if I just write I, what is I equal to? The square root of -1. So then if I had I squared, what would that be equal to? -1. Please do not say 1. That is what first period told me, and I cried a little. I squared is -1. Okay? So then, if I gave you this expression of I to the 7th minus I to the 4th plus I, and I wanted you to simplify that, take a few moments to simplify that out, and I will pause the recording while you work. If we have this right now, oh man, Dice of Destiny today are going to be interesting. We have row 5, person 1. So Parker, could you tell me the first step you took?
The first one I did was applying the I to square root of 7.
Okay.
Which I got out to be -I.
Okay. So how did you get to -I? Did you just do I times I times I?
Well, I did, I know I to the square root of 6 and then just that times I.
Okay, so we were able to break up I to the 7th by saying we know that I to the 6th can be written as I squared to the 3rd power, and then times another I, because we want I to the 7th. And from there, we know that I squared is -1. So if we have -1 cubed, we end up with -1 times I. So here we just have -I for this first term. If we wanted to look at our second term here, row 2, person 3 would be Audrey. Could you tell us how you figured out, simplified the second term? The I to the 4th? Two -1s. So since we have 2 -1s, what will that give us? 7 +1. But there is a minus in front of it, so make sure you keep that. All right, so down here we have I, or -I minus 1 so far. And then we just have a plus I at the end. And that will give us, if we just look at this, we'll have a -I plus an I, which is just 0. And then we have a -1, so you just end up with a -1. Okay. I want to do another type of complex numbers problem. If I have 5 minus I times, let's do 3 plus 2I, and I want to simplify that. How would I do that? Take a few moments, work on this one. I will pause while you do. If you had a little bit of time, bless you. Row 5, person 1, Parker, could you tell us your first step again? Okay, so what did you end up getting? Yeah, just the whole distributed.
15 plus
minus 3 squared. So you just kind of distributed all of these out. Like that. And we ended up with this. Thank you. And for our next step, row 4, person 5 is Madison. Could you tell us what? Awesome. Thank you so much. row 5, person 3 is Nate. From here, what can we simplify? Yep, so this I squared can become -1, because I squared is -1. So then we have 15 plus 7i plus 2. And from here, that just means that we have 17 plus 7i. Take a look at your screen right now. Do you have the 7i second? It needs to be second. If it is not second on the cumulative, I will cry a tear and then mark it partially wrong. He says that he won't. I say that I will. I'm different than you. It depends on my mood. Okay, fine. I won't mark it partially wrong. I'll just cry a tear. I'll just cry a tear. I will draw a sad face next to it. Thank you. That's exactly what I will do. I will draw a sad face next to it, but I will not mark it wrong. So if you want to see sad faces all over your paper, that's how you would get them. Okay. Show of thumbs. This example that we just did, I am confident in how to do it. Or I am shaky on it and would like another problem. Or I have no idea how to do this problem. Okay? The first example we did, I am confident in this. I would like another problem. Or I have no idea how to do this. Okay, I'm seeing more sideways thumbs for this one, so we're going to do another one like this first problem. So, if I gave you I to the 8th plus I cubed minus 1, can you simplify this? I will give you time while I pause the recording. We want to be careful here with our positives and our negatives. Sorry, that was a little loud. So if we look here, if we want to do the same thing we did before, we can say, we know that there's some kind of I squareds that go into I to the 8th. How many I squareds go into I to the 8th? 4 of them, so this will just be I squared to the 4th. Then we know that 1 I squared will go into I cubed, but we'll still have an I. And then we'll just minus 1. So if we look at this and we say this is -1, this is -1. -1 to the 4th is just 1. And -1 to the 1st is -1 times an I minus 1. So we'll end up with, if you have 1 minus 1, that's 0. So you'll just end up with a minus I. Hold on one sec. Okay. Okay, I think that this paired with your review on your review sheet should be more than enough for your complex numbers. So I would like to go over a few quadratics A problems, or at least one. So if I started off with, I want a parabola, and the parabola has a vertical stretch, and that vertical stretch is of 1/2, and then I want it to reflect over the x-axis, and finally I want a vertex at -3, 2. For right now, all I want is just the vertex form. So take a few moments to get this into vertex form. Question while you're doing this. Is vertex form easy to get from these directions or hard to get? It'll be easy because you have all of the information. If I wanted you to get into factored form, could you do that in one step with this information? You could not, because you do not have your roots, so you would not be able to get to the factored form right away. Just a few things to think about. I will pause the recording while you're working now. All right. From here, if I ask row 5, person 2, Oliver, could you tell me what you got for the vertex form here?
Yeah, I got y equals negative
Okay. One thing that I loved the best about that response is this y equals. So far on your tests, if you have not written y equals, I've cried a tear, but I have not marked it wrong. All of the other teachers have been marking it wrong all this time, which means that for the cumulative, if you do not put y equals and you just put the rest of this equation, I have to mark it as partial credit, because I have to grade the same way that they grade. So please make sure when you are looking at these forms, your equation says y equals, and then whatever your form is. Okay? So we've gotten the vertex form. If I then ask you to find the axis of symmetry, how would you find that? Take a few moments, find what it is, and once you think you know what it is, share it with 2 people around you. I will pause while you do this. If we are looking for our axis of symmetry, otherwise known as our axis of symmetry, if it's an axis of symmetry, that means it's going to be x equals. So what does x equal? Let's see. Row 4, person 3, would be Fausto. X equals negative 3. How did you get to negative 3? So we have a vertex at negative 3, 2, right? If we drew this out and we said, here is our vertex, and our parabola is going downwards because we had a negative, then if we're looking for our axis of symmetry, that goes right through the vertex, right? And if it goes right through the vertex, and it's the x value, that just means it's the x value of our vertex. Okay, we have the axis of symmetry. Now I want the general form. So take a few moments, get this into the general form. I'll pause while you do. If we are looking for our general form, we first need to expand out our formula here. So row 6, person 5, comes back up to Grace. Can you tell me what you got for your first step? Okay. Let's go on the outside. Okay, at this point, I have seen a lot of people add 2 to 9. Can you do that first? No, please do not do that first. We first have to distribute in this negative 1/2 to everything inside the parentheses, and we will end up with negative 1/2 x squared minus 3x minus 4.5 plus 2. And finally, with negative 1/2 x squared minus 3x minus 2.5. So that's our general form. If I then asked you to find the y-intercept from the general form, really big, write what the y-intercept is, and once you think you have it, flip your iPad towards me so I can check to see if you know what the y-intercept is.
in I equals, or do you want to write?
That is a good point. I would like you to write it as a point. So something, comma, something. Nice. Nice. Awesome. Good job. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yes. Okay. Yes. 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 Awesome. Can you make it bigger? I can't see that one. In parentheses, but yes. Awesome. Thank you. Yes. Yep. Okay. So we all figured out if it's the y-intercept, that means x is equal to 0. And our y-intercept in the general form is just this last number, only for the general form. So we found the y-intercept. If we look up here, and you got to the vertex form, and they asked you for the y-intercept, is 2 your y-intercept? It is not. So if you're in the vertex form and they ask you for your y-intercept, you need to come down, find the general form first, and then you can find your y-intercept. Okay? From here, I think that's all the review I would like to do today. Tomorrow we will continue with quadratics A and do a little bit of practice with quadratics B. But I would like to give you time to start the review or to start test corrections, depending on what you would like to do. So I will stop our recording here, and that'll be all for today.